Hey, how's everyone doing? I hope you're doing well. And I just wanted to give you an update on how things are going and talk a little bit about um, not just progress, but also how I'm approaching what I'm eating, calorie intake, and just how we need to look at calories in general. And it's not quite as cut and dried as calories in, calories out. And um, it's really the quality of what you're putting in your body that is the most important part of it, and not so much the amounts of calories. So we'll get to that in a little bit. So far as my stats, I've been through 16 weeks now, and my starting weight for this journey pre-surgery was 310.5 pounds, and my starting weight at surgery was 300 pounds, pretty much dead even. And I am currently at 235. So I am down 65 pounds since surgery and 75.5 pounds since July 2nd of this year. So I'm now officially in the weight zone that I was in before the turn of the century. So that still kind of boggles my mind when I think about it. I'm fitting into large sized shirts and smaller pants, and even the stuff I bought recently is getting too big. But I had to buy some stuff because the double XLs were starting to look ridiculous. So what have I been doing? What have I been eating? And first off, for those first several weeks after surgery, it is highly recommended that you just follow your doctor and surgeon, bariatric clinic et al. Their plan. It's very important. You're healing over that time. You are rebuilding tissues. Your stomach is getting used to things, and it's not going to respond to foods the same way. So it's really important that you are following that plan. And like I've said in previous videos, a lot of people experience stalls when you get around the 3-week mark, give or take a week. That's perfectly normal. You're still burning fat. I'm not going to get into all the reasons why that happens, but there's some very good scientific reasons why that happens. It's not something to panic about. And there's going to be future stalls. I've been one of the pretty lucky ones. I haven't had a long-term stall yet. I am expecting it. I'm expecting that at any time. It may or may not happen, but most people hit a stall, hit a wall here and there that could be for days, could be for weeks, could be for months. So I'm expecting that. If it doesn't happen, that's awesome. If it does, I'm not going to lie and say it won't be frustrating. Of course it'll be frustrating, but it's just a natural part of the process. We are going to have stalls for periods of time in this journey, and we have to accept that. So what am I doing? What steps am I taking as far as food that I'm eating on a daily basis and calorie intake and that kind of thing? Now, there was a really interesting study out of South Korea that looked at successful and less successful patients after bariatric surgery. And I mentioned this in a previous video, where the most successful patients sort of came in under these certain calorie marks. And I'm going to round off a little bit because I don't remember the exact amount. I'll repost a link to the study in the comments below. So basically at month 1, the most successful patients were consuming less than about 830 calories per day. At 6 months, the most successful patients were consuming less than about 1,150 calories per day. And then by 12 months, the most successful patients were consuming less than about 1,500 calories per day. So where am I in that mix? Well, I'll be honest, I've kind of stopped counting calories at this point. Part of my plan has been wanting to move towards intuitive eating, recognizing when I'm full, just eating really, really good foods and not having to worry about counting calories. So I counted calories for about the first 2.5, 3 months. And to get a good idea of what I was eating, how I felt during those times, what kind of effect it had, and that kind of thing. And so I was eating between 800 and 1,000 calories per day, and sometimes a little bit more. Generally never over 1,100 or so. But the other thing that I found super important is, through research, is the quality of the food that you're taking in, and the effect of feeding your microbiome properly and building up really good bacteria in your gut, because it has such an incredible influence on your metabolism and how well you digest foods. And one of the things that we have to keep in mind as we go through this is that everyone doesn't react to every food exactly the same. And we can't assume because one diet method works well for someone else that it's going to work well for you, or that, hey, I'm following X diet plan and it's just not working, I must be doing something wrong. And you're not doing something wrong. It's just that people react to food in different ways. We have different microbiomes, different bugs in our gut that enable us to metabolize certain foods better than other people. And in fact, you would have to get more than 10,000 people probably side by side in a study to find two people that had even close to the same microbiome setup. So it is really important that we experiment a little bit with food. And from my research, the one major commonality, the best thing that we can do, is eat a wide variety of plants. 20 to 30 different kinds of plants each week. That doesn't mean that you have to eat all vegetarian. It doesn't mean that you have to stuff yourself with a whole bunch of plants. It just means a wide diversity. And that can be herbs, spices, nuts, seeds, roots, anything that grows in the ground. It doesn't have to be huge amounts, but it has to be diverse, because what's in our gut thrives on these different kinds of fibers from these different plants. And so you can still be on it. If you want to do low carb, you can still do all this and be low carb. You can still eat meat, you can still eat eggs, dairy, that kind of thing. But it should be that part of it, that non-plant sort of intake, you should experiment with a little bit and find out what works best for you. It might not be keto, it might not be paleo, it might not be vegan. If you're doing vegan for ethical reasons, then that's fine. If you're doing vegan for health reasons and it's not working for you, then you might think of doing something else, or vegetarian, or whatever the case may be. But a big key seems to be eating a wide diversity of plants. I am almost all plant-based now. I eat very little meat, very little dairy. I still do have eggs that I get from a local place, a friend that has a whole bunch of chickens. So I do get local eggs. Don't eat a whole lot of meat anymore. Eat a lot of beans, and beans are probably one of the best sources of fiber and protein in the world. It's pretty awesome. So that's what I'm doing, and so far it's working really well for me. I'm continuing to drop weight, 2 to 3 pounds a week, and that's plenty. I mean, obviously I dropped more than that early on, which is a generally sort of normal path. I've eliminated as much processed food as I possibly can. And I've also weaned myself off of artificial sweeteners for the most part. Well, I guess I should say I've weaned myself off of most artificial sweeteners and try to bring that down to absolute zero. I do still use sweetened natural sweeteners like stevia, limited amount, a little bit of sugar. That doesn't mean sugar is great for you either. It's not. It doesn't do you any good, really. So I try to limit all of that stuff, but I'm also not depriving myself from enjoying sweet things every now and then, but I am really trying to limit processed foods, especially ultra processed foods, because there are some minimally processed foods like nut butters and things like that that are out there, but I try to keep those to a minimum as I possibly can. So that's what's working for me right now. But I'm always kind of being wary of where the research points me, where science is pointing me, and what is working. And just the evidence out there really points, especially on most of the most recent nutritional studies out there, especially some really large ones that were done in the United Kingdom by a doctor and researcher named Tim Spector, who has overseen and been a part of some really large nutritional studies that are just completely fascinating. You might look him up on YouTube, do a search for Tim Spector, microbiome. You'll find some fascinating stuff there. He also has a couple of books, one that recently came out called Spoon-Fed. Something like Spoon-Fed, why everything you've been told about food, almost everything about food you've been told is wrong, or you've been told about food is wrong. I'm kind of mixing it up there, but you can find him on Amazon or that kind of thing. He cites a lot of studies that I've read that point this way, and one of the benefits we do get from surgery is sort of a fresh microbiome that we can really concentrate on feeding and growing a good environment in there to take us through in maintaining our weight loss and that kind of thing. So that's what I'm doing. And as far as the calories go, I am not, like I said, I'm not really counting them right now. I know the volume of food. I have an idea. I've done enough counting that I know how much of certain foods are appropriate. If you're not confident in that, then I would recommend maybe trying to count for a little while to get a good idea. And the thing about, you have to take the counting calories with a grain of salt, because it's wildly inaccurate. And how much calories you burn on the inside is wildly inaccurate. It's just not possible to know exactly what your body is processing, because some calories flow right through you. The calories that you see on the label aren't necessarily the calories you're going to take in. Calories can, like if you're going to eat a steak, tartare has fewer calories than a steak cooked rare, and that has fewer calories than a steak cut medium, and that has fewer calories than a steak cooked well done. So, but that's not going to be on the label, right? It's just going to be the calories here, that raw beef, and that's not entirely accurate. Calories, it also makes a difference what foods you eat with what, to how you absorb those calories. So a sandwich made with several ingredients may not have the same caloric effect on your body than if you ate those things separately. So the point is, it's just wildly inaccurate as far as if you think you're really understanding, oh, I'm burning this many calories and I only took this many calories in. Well, no, that's not true. It's not that simple. It's not going to be, you're just not going to be able to get to that specificity. But you can get in the ballpark and get an idea of how bad foods negatively influence calorie intake versus good foods. How plants obviously almost always have fewer calories than non-plant food and things like that. So I think counting calories is helpful for understanding food content to a certain degree, but I think where we want to head is intuitive eating and recognizing when we've had enough to eat and not overstuffing ourselves and not eating ourselves to being uncomfortable and that sort of thing. So I think that's where, that's the direction I'm heading. I would encourage others to kind of think about that and recognize that there's more to this than just the calories that you're eating. It's the quality of the calories that you're eating and the way in which you're feeding yourself. And every person is a little bit different, so it's going to take some experimentation. Besides this diversity of plants, which, like I said, doesn't have to be a ton of volume of food, just a wide diversity of things. And on a weekly basis, 20 to 30 plants, different kinds, spices, nuts, seeds, all that kind of thing. Like I said, you don't have to eat these things to your food. You just have to incorporate them into your diet so that your biome, so the good gut bugs there have something good to feed on. Because if we eliminate those gut bugs, it really affects our immunity. It affects our metabolism in a negative way. There's just all kinds of downsides to it. Hormonally, your gut does so much with hormones. It's really quite fascinating. So that's where I'm leaving it today. Pretty straightforward. That's where I am right now. If you have questions, please post them down in the comments. If you have some sort of idea about a video you want to see in the future, let me know. And I will research it, post it, answer your questions about what I've experienced, and we'll go from there. And until next time, take care.